So if you're gonna work with people, be in a relationship with anybody, long term, you have to learn about their weaknesses. It's more important to know a person's weakness than their strength. And this is why. People rarely hide their strengths, but people rarely flaunt their weaknesses. Most people are hiding their weaknesses. And because they're hiding it, there are some telltale signs that you could observe that indirectly tells you that somebody's hiding their weaknesses. Just like you could tell if somebody's hiding underwater, you don't have to look at their body. You could just look for the air bubbles that are popping up. Hiding weaknesses always has sign. If somebody's hiding behind a tree, you may not see them visually, but if you could sense their smell, or you could look at ultraviolet rays, or you could look at the way that the tree looks, and through that, maybe you could sense that there's somebody behind that, right? So even though people hide things, everything leaves marks. Everything leaves a mark and leaves clues. And so we're gonna discover what that is, because a lot of the times what we consider our strengths are really just weaknesses in disguise. Almost all the time, a lot of the times, right? So let's talk about that. Now, remember, this is much easier. Reading people and learning their weaknesses is much easier when you know them in a social circle. Meaning, when you know them in isolation through their friend, through like online dating, or maybe somebody recommended you somebody to hire, for example, you don't have that context, that social context. But when you know them through the friends and family, by you just knowing who their friends are, how their family members are, you have context that can be used to understand them in a holistic way. But when you know them from Bumblefuck and you have no network with them, you don't have that type of like feeling, touching grass type of connection with them. So it's almost like studying a tree without studying what other trees are around it, and without knowing what country is in and the type of climate. You need that context. So remember, it's much easier to start with the social circle. And the way to get information out of them is to always start by seeming interested in them. It always starts that way. The appearance of a sympathetic ear will spur anyone to talk. So just being interested, being curious, not raising any defenses will get them to start talking, right? And as they're talking to you, or as you're observing them talk to other people, you want to be able to stop. You want to be able to not pay attention to words as much, and give more emphasis on gestures and unconscious signals that they send out. Because these gestures and unconscious signals are things that they're doing unconsciously. Words are conscious. The paralanguage and your gestures are not conscious. You want to look for the unconscious signals. Those are the ones that tell you. Why? Because unconscious signals always reveals what the person is hiding. Why? Because humans have a deep need to reveal themselves. People don't want to, like deathbed confessions, right? People want to reveal even their dark side. They're yearning for somebody to know who they are. So because of that, their conscious mind might not be sending those signals out because they know of the consequences, but their unconscious mind, which is their body, will leak out those unconscious signals on your behalf. The key is to not only what you look for, which is the key, like the words and the weaknesses, but where and how you look. So you gotta look not at their words, but nonverbal cues, and not just look at them and listen to what they're saying so that you can respond. You have to listen with an open and a level, calm mind. If your mind is distracted, if you're thinking about what to say next, if you're thinking about yourself, you're not going to pay attention to their nonverbal cues. Like, nonverbal cues say so much about people, say so much that we tend to ignore it because we just don't know how to read those signals. So body language, facial expressions, and other nonverbal cues can tell you a lot about what makes a person uncomfortable or defensive. For instance, sudden changes in postures or avoidance of eye contact or fidgeting can indicate discomfort or potentially areas of sensitivity. For example, If I asked you, tell me about your ex, and the whole time you were animated, but then when I asked you about your ex, all of a sudden your voice, you start touching your face more, you start blinking more, you start looking around more, or maybe you just talk about it with less enthusiasm, and maybe you just change the topic. When that happens, a lot of people would just ignore it and think no and not think much about it. You get what I'm saying? Oh, he just doesn't want to talk about it. But if you're actually paying attention, you'll notice that they were talking about it. They looked around. They were like, "Nice, he's a nice guy." The smile was fake. There was a lot of fidgety in the voice, and they changed the topic. But now, in your mind, you say that their ex is a sensitive subject, right? Or maybe when they talk about a war, like the Israeli and Palestinian stuff like that, they get very emotional. And now you know they have an emotional attachment to this. Something you could use to understand them a little bit better or to influence them one way or another. But what happens is that we just don't really pay much attention to that. Or maybe we see it and we just assume it has nothing to do with who they are. That's the problem. We gather evidence and we just throw it away. And we rather pay attention to the words that they give us. We want to see ourselves as an investigator, and stop taking the little signals that people send us and disregarding them. So, what are the topics that they try to avoid? Right? People tend to avoid activities that make them feel insecure or vulnerable. Maybe they don't want to talk about the dad. Maybe they don't want to get in the swimming pool. You get what I'm saying? That's an example. Maybe they don't want to talk about religion. Maybe they don't want to talk about their ex. Maybe they don't want to talk about feminism because it offends them. Maybe they don't want to talk about Trump because it offends them. All of those avoidance are glimpses into their psychology. And the problem is that they all just look like one puzzle piece. And so they just look irrelevant. So that's why we really don't take it into consideration. But what I'm asking you is to have a board of everyone. You know how how I talked about in the video how investigations usually have like an investigation board. And this investigation board, let me show you right here. Investigation board evidence, right? This investigation board allows them to see the issue, the problem, what's going on, and it gives you a different perspective. Just having an investigation board per se, right? And in this case, this investigation board right here is the information that you know about the person. Okay, this person likes to play basketball right here. This person hates LeBron. This person loves Larry Bird. This person doesn't like modern art. This person likes old school art. This person likes to look at, likes to study the 70s, and then this person hates the 90s. You know, like an example, like a psychological evaluation. And in isolation, they mean nothing. But when you put it together and you just consciously just keep things in your mind, a picture's gonna add up. And the thing is, you're not gonna make the connection. That's a problem. You're not gonna make that connection. You're not gonna say, okay, what is this? Eureka. No, one day you're gonna be showering and your unconscious mind is gonna create those connections because you're putting it, and your brain just creates connections. It's always creating connections. And the important one will surface at your conscious level. Just be aware. You don't have to do much with the information. Just be conscious that, oh, wow, I'll talk about their ex. They look down. They don't like to talk about it. Oh, wow, I'll talk about their dad. And maybe they start crying a little bit. Interesting. And that's it. And your brain and your unconscious mind will do all the work. Okay? So remember, train yourself to listen. That to me is the most important part. You got to train yourself to pay attention to these cues. People are always sending these cues. And how do you pay attention? Like I said, develop a meditation practice. Meditation will increase your empathy. Your empathy will increase your ability to pay attention to these unconscious signals. Your empathy will give you the attention and the focus and the desire to pay attention. This is not about being sneaky. This is simply about wanting to learn, wanting to do this. And the best way to do this is to have compassion. Have empathy. And the best and quickest way to increase your empathy is to develop a meditation practice, or check out the Vipassana 10-day retreat. Check out the book The Power of Now, or purchase my online course, like I always say. But the point is that what it does is that it lowers your mental activity, increases compassion, and you're able to pay deeper attention to the unconscious signals that people send out. It's just that simple. Plain, it's as simple as that, people. Increase your meditation practice. Your ability to notice those little things will increase. Just like you're able to notice the little functions in your brain now when you meditate, you're able to notice more details. You're able to notice more variations between emotions. You don't just say, I feel sad. You could also sense sadness. You sense anger. You sense resentment. You sense more hues of colors, if that makes any sense. And so this ability will also increase with other people, where you're able to sense things about them at a visceral level. So you got to keep an open mind when you're listening to people, and focus more on their nonverbal cues than verbal. There are so many people. For example, I was talking to someone a few weeks ago, and they were talking really nervous. They were like, yeah, I was like, they were talking about how they had to quit school and they were really sad about it. And they were telling me how it really sucked, and they were like, yeah, it was, but I don't mind, I don't mind leaving. I mean, I'm kind of happy with it, but so it's kind of, she was sending me mixed signals. She quit school, but she says she's happy. So I'm paying attention. I'm like, oh, you're happy? Okay, all right. Like those types of things. Like most people would have just assumed that the words were the truth because they're not looking at the nonverbal cues. Okay. So train yourself to listen, and because they're going to reveal things about themselves through conversation. One, especially if they think that you don't know them, or if they think you don't know their social circle, right? Or if they think that they're never going to see you again, that's when people reveal secrets. Train yourself to pay attention to the details, right? Notice how do they tip the waiter? Do they tip them a lot? What delights this person? What are their favorite things to do when they're bored? What do they prefer to do? How do they react to when they have power over someone? How do they react to when somebody has power over them? Like, for example, you'll notice that when people have power, they might get corrupted, but when they have no power, all of a sudden they become sycophants or people pleasers. Understanding those contrasts will give you a good understanding of their psychological ranges, right? And the problem is that people just don't investigate this. They don't really pay attention. And I'll be honest with you, if there was someone in your life that did this, just assume, you'd be a little cautious around them. But because you assume no one does this, you're not careful. So you're able to let things go a little bit more. You're able to say things. But if actually someone was paying attention to you, they will really know you inside out if they were actually paying attention to you. All right, guys, we're going to have a brief intermission so that I could tell you guys about our new bundle that we're doing, where you guys can purchase all of my courses and get it at a discount. So this bundle is pretty much the bundle where you could just buy all of my courses. You could buy Nice Guy, which is a training course on how to come across more assertive, how to come across more confident, how to not give off nice guy vibes. You guys can get access to Dark Game, which is my folk dating course on how to meet women in different scenarios, how to attract women, how to make sure you don't come across as creepy, and essentially how to act like a man and not act like a doofus, to be quite honest with you. And you get all of these bonuses, which is the bonuses of Dark Game, the bonuses of Practical Mastery, which is about how to master a skill, Social Mastery, which is how to master your social life, and the Laws of Human Nature, which is a book club videos that I had dissecting Robert Greene's book. All of this is naturally at around naturally is at $346, but you guys can purchase this bundle and get it at what's the price again? Get it at $238 pretty much. So you guys can purchase it right now. It's a money back 30-day money back guarantee. It's a good way to, rather than just buying them individually and paying extra, you guys can just purchase everything at a discount price. Now, the only thing I don't like is the fact that I'm giving you a lot of information at the same time. That makes me kind of scared because a lot of times people don't do the things that I teach when you get too much information. But I've gotten too many requests to do this, so I'm just satisfying you guys. Purchase it right now by clicking on the description down below where it says purchase the bundle. All right, let's continue with the video.